Hi. So today we will discuss about AngularJS filters. So, so these filters are actually which modifies the data. So filter just modifies the data. So these filters can be classified into two types. A filter which is applied on a single object and a filter which is applied on an array. A filter which is applied on a single object. So this single object can be a string, number or date or something. So AngularJS uses a filter which can be applied on a single object as uppercase. We have a filter of lowercase. We have a filter of number. Then we have a filter of currency. And array filters, we have a filter called filter, and we have a filter called order by. And AngularJS gives us one more filter called as a limit by. So this filter can be applied for both a single object or an array of objects. So how to use this filter? So these filters in view, that is our HTML. So we can use it with a pipe symbol. So if you want to use the uppercase filter, we will say pipe of uppercase. And like if you want to convert an object of name to uppercase, so we will say name to uppercase. So so we will see a simple example of this one. So here we have taken one controller, uh, we have taken one app which has one controller with some variables inside this scope, and in our view we have taken this controller, and if you want to apply the filter of uppercase, we will say first case with the pipe symbol and uppercase. So similarly we can also apply the filter of lowercase, so we will say last name, which is our variable, with a pipe symbol of lowercase. So we can run this. So when we run this, so we will see that the filter of uppercase and the lowercase has been applied. And in the same way, we also have the we also have the filter called as number. So this filter is only applied for numbers or integers. So what exactly this does? So when we apply number filter on some number, let's say I have a number as 354.5623. So I will apply a filter of number. So this number does two jobs. So first it will add indents. And we can provide a input parameter for this filter saying that I want to round this number to some two decimal points. So I will say number colon 2. So now this number will be rounded to it will be rounded to two decimal points. So the output we get as 343, and it will add indents to this one dot 56. So if you want to round it to some decimal point, we should provide an parameter saying that 2 or 3. So we can provide parameters to our filter using colon. Using this colon operator, we can provide input parameter for this filter. So so in the same sense, we have one more filter called as currency. So what this filter does? This filter does two jobs. So first, it will indent and it will round to two decimal point. It will round to two decimal point, and it will add dollar sign before the number, and it will add dollar sign and it will add the dollar sign before the number. So if we apply the filter of currency, let's say 243.567 filter, we will apply the filter with the pipe symbol, we will say currency. So now output will be $243.5657 because it will round it to two decimal points. So it will add this dollar sign defaultly at the starting of this number. So if you want to change this dollar sign, we can provide a input parameter. And how can we give a input parameter for a filter? We will write the filter name with colon. We will say INR. So now instead of dollar, let's say we have some number. So now instead of dollar, we will get INR of 253. So we can change this default dollar sign. So how to change it? We have to give an input parameter for this filter. So we will give an input parameter with a colon and we will say INR. So now we will get it as a INR of this one. So we will see this example. So let's take two numbers which are defined inside scope. We will define it with a scope dot. Let's say this is price of 2534.567, and we have one more number. Let's say this is some number equal to 1234.5432. So now we can apply a filter of number and currency for this. So we will say price of, we will apply pipe symbol with a currency. Then for this we will apply a number filter. So for a number variable, we will apply a filter of number. Okay, so to just avoid confusion, let's name this something. So let's say this as a some phone number or some cost. So now we will apply this cost with a number filter which is rounded with 3 decimal points. So now when we run this, so our price will be indented and it will be rounded to 2 decimal point, whereas this number it is indented with 3 decimal points. And for a currency, it will defaultly add the dollar sign. So now we can give our own sign saying dollar. We can provide an input parameter saying now it should be INR. R. So now when we run this dollar sign will be replaced with IN now. So this dollar sign will be replaced with IN now. So next we have filters which are applied on array. So till now we have seen filters which are applied on a single object. So we have filters which can be applied on array. Those are filter and order. Filter and order. So these filters are only applied on array. These filters can be only applied on array of objects. So what does this filter does? So when we apply a filter, it will just check for an object. It will just check for an object. It will just check for an object which contains A. Or A. So this is case insensitive. So now what does this filter does? It only check the contents. It will only check the contents. Whether it contains A or. So if we apply filter of some BC, so now it will check the array. It will check the objects in an array which contains B and C. So now we will see this example. So in our controller, let's take an array of names. Dot names. So this should be an array. So we will take array as from Kanda global BTM and some yes, and some so how can we iterate this array in our Angular? We can iterate this array using our ng repeat. So we will write an ng repeat. We will say naming names and we will just print this name. So when we don't apply any filters, it will print all the names. When we don't apply any filters, it will print all the names. So means it has taken all the names. So now as this filter it can be only applied on array, so we will apply it on array. So we will say filter with an input of A. So now it will filter all elements which contains A. So now it filters all elements which contains A. So as our HSR and BTM does not contain A, so these objects will be skipped. So it will only filter the objects which contains A. And we can make this in a dynamic form also. So instead of directly giving a string here, we will supply with some variable. So let's supply with some variable. So I will say my variable name is some filter with, and let's bind with this some model. So let's bind this with some model. So how can we bind with a model? We can take input type of text and we can bind using ng model with this variable. So we are binding with a filter with. So now when we run this, So now we can dynamically filter this array using this input text box. So I will filter with yes. So all the object which contains s will be filtered, and also it can be filtered. So I will see. So all the objects which contain aj, it will be filtered dynamically. So instead of directly hard coding that string, we can filter it dynamically. The same. So now this is about a array of simple objects, because string is a simple objects. We can directly iterate it, and we can say that it will filter, it will check with the contents. So now let's check with an array of some complex objects. So let's take, I have an array with a complex object of, let's say, clients. So I have an array of clients. I have an array of clients. So all these clients contains, all these clients contain an object. All this client contains an object with the name, location and salary, with the name, location and salary. So now let's apply this filter on client. We will say client in clients, and let's show client dot name and also client dot location. Client dot location, this location we have defined on this object with loc client dot location. So now let's run this. So now when we filter with h, so now let's say we will filter with h. So now our filter will check, it will check all the values in that object, means it will check the name and also the location. This as you observe here, this name doesn't contains h, but this location contains h, whereas here in the location we don't have h, but in the name we have h. So what our filter does is, our filter, it checks all properties, it checks all properties in object. So our filter checks all the properties in object. And how it checks? It checks with a contains. It only checks with a contains. So if any of the property in an object contains this value, if any of the property in an object contains this value, it will be filtered. It will be filtered. So now in this example, it will filter both for name and this location, both for name and this and this location. So now consider, we don't want to filter with this location, we only want to filter with this name. But we told that our filter will check all the properties, our filter will check all the properties. So now consider, we want to only check a particular property, we want to only check only one property. So here in our example, we only want to check with name. So we only want to check with name. So how can we do this? So when we are applying filter, we will mention the filter with variable. So we were saying this should be filtered with some variable called as filter with, some variable called as a filter with. So instead of directly giving the variable name, we can also say that, so this array should be filtered with an object, and in this object we will mention the property. So I will say name should be filtered with filter. So name should be filtered with. So instead of directly giving an variable, we will give an we will provide an object with the property name. So now here we will see. So now here instead of directly giving this variable, we will say, we will give an object, we will say, so this name should be filtered with filtered with. So in our last example we have seen that when we filter with h, it will check for a name and also this location. So now we will see. So now when we filter with h, it will only check the name. So now it will only check the name, means it will not check the location. So if we instead of giving an object, if we say just with some variable, so now it will check for all the properties in that object. So now when we filter with h, it will check name and also the location. It will check name and also the location, means it will check all the properties in that object. But if you want to restrict that, if you want to restrict our filter to check only one property in that object, we will provide with an object saying that name should be filtered with an object called filter with. So just to avoid confusion, let's name this as a filter with name, filter with name, and filter with, let's take one more filter which will filter with location. So I will say, let's create one more input box. So I will say it is filtered with location, should filter with location. So now in our object we can say that name should be filtered with an variable called filter with name, comma, location should be filtered with an object saying filter with location, So now when we run this, so now we can filter with name. So now it will check for h in only name, or we can filter with the location. So now it will check h in only the location, in only the location. And we can add, we can also have a common filter which checks every property. So let's add one more filter called with filter with all. So we will say this filter with all. So this can be supplied saying, we will add one more variable for this object. We will say dollar, this dollar should be equal to filter with all. So this dollar should be equal to filter with all. So dollar in the sense it should filter, it should check for all the properties in that object. So when we say dollar, it will check all the properties in that object. So now let's run this. So when we filter with all, it will check for the first name and also the for the name and also the this location. And this is a filter for name, this is a filter for location, and this is a filter for all. So when we want a filter with all, we will use dollar sign. We will use the dollar sign. So next we have a filter with an called as, we have a filter called as order by. We have filter called as order by. So what this order by does? So this order by, it will simply, this will order, this will sort an array based on the property. It will sort an array based on this property. So for an array of object, we can say order by of some property in that object. So we will say it should order by, it should order by name. So now it will order by name. So now this will be ordered by name. Name, which is a property in that object. Or we can say, in our example, let's apply this one. In our example, let's apply this one. So we will remove this filter by. So as we have one more property for this one, so we will also print that one. We have client dot salary. We have a client dot salary. So now we can sort this salary. So now we can say order by, and this should be a string which we are supplying, order by salary. So now we are saying it should order by salary. So now when we run this, our object are sorted by, based on the salary. Our object are sorted by based on the salary, and this sorting order will be in ascending order. In ascending order. So now if we want to reverse this order, we don't want ascending order, so we can achieve that in two ways. We can achieve that in two ways. So how can we change this order? We can change this order, we can change the order of, we can change the order in two ways. So the first way is by supplying one more input parameter with true or false, with true or false. So in order by filter, we will supply a parameter saying with which property it should order by. So we are saying it should order by a salary. Then we will supply one more input parameter saying it as a true, saying it as a true. So this parameter states that it should be in reverse order. So this parameter is a for reverse. So when we say reverse is true, the order will be in descending. By defaultly this reverse will be false, so the order will be ascending. So this is the one way. Second way is, while giving this filter, while giving parameter to this filter, we can say minus salary. We can say minus salary. So it will reverse the order for a property of salary in that object. So we can reverse this order in a two way. Either we can simply say here minus, so now it will reverse the order. So now it will reverse the order, or we can supply one more parameter. Yes, we can supply one more input parameter saying true or false. So by default it will be false. So when we supply true, this order will be replaced. When we supply false, so the order will be ascending order. So either we can change the ascending or descending order. with this true or false, or we can change ascending and descending order by making this as a minus. So this is about the filters for an array. So we will discuss the last filter, which is limit by. So this limit by filter is, it can be applied for both. So this limit by filter can be applied for a single object and also for an array We can apply this filter saying limit by of something. So when we apply this for a single object of string, when we apply this limit by for a single object of string, so it will limit that string with 2 characters. So if I have a string of skanda and I apply this limit by of 2, so my output will be sk. So it will limit this with only 2 characters. But when we apply this for an array, it will limit it with 2 objects in this array. It will limit with the 2 objects in this array. So if I have an array of string, so for this array, if I apply limit by of 2, so we will get objects of a comma b. So it will limit the two objects. So this limit by filter can be applied for an array as well as for a single object. So this is about some predefined filters in AngularJS. So in our next section we will discuss about how to create custom filters. So till now we have discussed only the filters which are available in Angular. So in our next section we will see how to define our own filters, or how can we make our custom filters.